what is up, everybody? This is the All In podcast. Thank you for tuning in. We are back after an extended weekend, took a couple days there to regroup. There's a lot going on right now. We are not going to talk any election, any politics. If you want to hear us talk politics, go to our last episode where we teamed up with All In Politics to do some presidential election prediction stuff, or go to their feed. They got good stuff. But we are not talking about that. We are talking NFL and a little bit of NBA. But first, I am one of the co-hosts, Mike Badzik, joined by my guy, Eli Cooper. What is up, man?
Not much, man. How you doing?
I am one of the co-hosts. Doing good. Happy to be back. Happy to have football to talk about.
Yeah.
Specifically, the football that we saw on Sunday. One of the games made me very, very happy. And I'm sure you had a good weekend too with your team. So,
if that's how you want to put it, sure.
Well, we'll talk about it. We do want to remind you guys, the presenting sponsor of the All In podcast is mybookie.ag. Go to mybookie.ag and use the promo code ALLINPOD when you deposit to get a 100% sign up bonus up to $1,000. Make sure you go there. Use the promo code to, 1, get the bonus, and 2, let them know that we sent you. So go to mybookie.ag. They got a lot of action, not only on sports, football, and everything else. They also have a lot of political action. You can go on there and bet on some politics if you're feeling confident in who you think is going to pull this thing out. It's not over yet, it appears, so you can still get some action on that.
Yeah, and 2024.
And 2024. So some futures bets. We were talking futures today in our All In Politics group message. I don't have the patience for it, but if you do and you want to try a long-term investment idea, there you go. You can bet on who you think the nominees will be in 2024. So, all right, let's start today in NBA. There was a report on ESPN. It's kind of been circling NBA talk for a couple days now. Really, is when is this next season going to start? And it looks like they're circling in on 12/22, so December 22nd. So a little bit before that Christmas start date that we had previously discussed.
Yep.
Looks like they're going to agree to this maybe next week between the players. There is some, contract stuff, trying to figure out, how to get enough rest for guys, and also how to get enough games in for these regional TV networks. So what are you thinking about this possible agreement and this possible start date?
It's a pretty quick turnaround, but not too much different than what we're used to seeing. About 4-ish months for some teams, and a little under 4 for Miami and LA. But overall, it's good to see them finally come to an agreement. Some of the players wanted to maybe push it to January, but there were some revenue concerns. I think they were talking about like $1 billion. Or something like that in revenue lost, which after what they just lost in the pandemic would have been pretty costly. So it's good to see them come to a resolution, and a 72-game schedule was a little surprising to me, given that they're starting all the way in December. So it seems we're going to have a lot of basketball in that, time period from December through, I guess, June and July. So that's, as a fan, a plus. And if the players are going to agree with it, obviously they've either accepted it or they're okay with it.
Right.
So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But it's just good to see that there's organization, things getting done. The draft has finally officially been set for November 17th. Stay tuned. Mock Draft 2.0 coming soon. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, it's promising, I should say.
Yeah, it's definitely promising, and yeah, it was a little bit of a back and forth thing. But when you think about it, kind of like you mentioned, it's not too much quicker turnaround than what we normally see for these guys. The players came back and said, "Oh, well, let's do a 50-game season," and the owners were like, "That's not going to work," because they're already losing so much money because of this arenas, right? They're not going to be able to. It looks like they're not going to be able to have fans in the arenas for this probably whole season. So I think the idea is probably, all right, no fans this season. We'll come back the next year and try to make up all this money we lost.
Yeah.
So And one of the big ways that they're going to be able to at least make some money is through the TV deals, right? Really the only way. If you're not getting any arena revenue, Brian Windhorst broke it down really, really pretty simply how the revenue is split. And it's basically, close to half TV revenue and close to half arena revenue, a little bit less than half arena revenue. So if you can keep the TV revenue, you can at least keep it afloat.
Right.
And in order to do that, you have to have, I think it's at least 70 games to get the regional TV money. We had talked about that before. I know when they were talking about coming back and how many games they were going to play before the playoffs. One of the things we talked about was making sure they get to 70 games so they get the regional TV money. It's the same kind of concept here. They got to make sure they get to that many games so they get that money. The players also take a hit here, right? So the players look at this like their contracts, and we kind of think of their contracts as, oh, he signed for 4 years, 115. Well, like, it's more so a percent of the salary cap. And if the salary cap is, directly dependent on revenues, well, like, those numbers are going to go down. So you might have guys who were making $8 million who are going to make $3 million this year. Like, guys who are making $25 million are going to end up with closer to like 10 or 15 million. Like, the impact is felt. So I think these guys are also motivated to get a deal done and to actually play the games too, because it's money coming out of their pockets as well as the owners. And that's kind of the nice thing, right? That's kind of what we want in the NBA. We kind of want the players to have a ownership stake in revenues. Well, like, if you're not going to own the team, the next best way to do that would be to share the revenue. That's what they do. It's a 50-50 split. So for them, it makes sense to come back and try to play at least 70 games to try to keep that money up. And then you probably look at the next season and you say, all right, let's get into full swing. Now, I know that probably there's still going to be some pushback. I think I saw LeBron was not super happy about turning it around so quick. But the other thing is, too, you really want to get it in before the Olympics next year, right? So if we were looking at the December start and we want to do a 72-game season, which is probably what's going to be a 72-game season, and then they want to end by end of June, early July at the latest, well, like, we're probably going to have to cut out the All-Star break. We're probably going to have to increase the number of back-to-backs, which is not good for players. We're probably going to see more load management this year. And then the other thing I wonder about is, okay, well, what are ways you can make up the revenue? Well, like, I think the most obvious way is to expand that play-in tournament. Because that was a huge success, right? And that's kind of like easy TV money deal, right? That's like, if think about just how popular those two games were, or that one game was, and then the games leading up to it for the 8 and 9 seeds. Well, like, if you expanded that out to like 6 through 11 or even 7 through 10, and you said those are 3-game series, well, like, all right, well, if you do that, that's 2 or 3 series, a conference of 3-game series. Like, you just made up 9 to 15 games. And you could package that off for $10 million to ESPN. Like, they can think of ways to make up the revenue. So I'm glad that they're going to do something. Right. And it's pretty cool for us. I mean, that's kind of one of the unintended benefits of the world we're living in today is a shortened off season. We don't have to wait as long for basketball.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. So, all right, that'd be cool. We're looking forward to that. And we are looking forward to doing Mock Draft 2.0. So get at our guy Taylor on Twitter. Make sure tell him to get his mock draft ready. We're going to be doing that soon. Let's transition to NFL then. We saw a pretty good weekend of football, week 8. We are going to start with the best team in the NFL, the last undefeated team in the NFL. The Pittsburgh Steelers beat the Ravens on the road. They stay undefeated. What were you thinking watching this game?
So this was actually one of the few games that I actually watched in full while it was on. I'm typically an NFL red zone guy because I like to see the many fantasy players that I have get in the end zone. So, but this one I felt I had to watch, and it was worth every second that I missed watching my other fantasy players because it was a good game. It was. Your typical, Steelers versus Ravens. I thought, obviously, the Ravens ran the ball really well against the Steelers, which is surprising given how good their front seven is. That's the stronger point of their defense. But it looked like without Mark Ingram in the way, J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards both looked better, you know, and were able to get into a rhythm, especially Dobbins. So, you know, maybe that's something for the Ravens to consider. But offensively, I thought the Steelers did a good job moving the ball against a tough Ravens defense as well. So it was kind of both ways. It wasn't like a low scoring, boring kind of game. It was exciting. It came down to, you know, Lamar Jackson in the red zone. He had a tough fumble late trying to get a fourth down conversion to give them a chance, and fumbles, and the Steelers hold on to win. But to me, I think this game, although it was a close one, I think they absolutely proved that they're the better team here, which maybe was up for debate amongst some.
Yeah.
But it also exposed a lot of the flaws that Lamar Jackson has.
Oh yes.
And not only in this game, he has struggled throughout the year. But the two games where he struggled the most were their two losses, were the Chiefs and here against the Steelers. I thought were his two worst games of the season, and it seems like, and granted, I hate to put this tag on a third year quarterback and someone who I actually like, but it just seems like against the most elite of elite teams, he cannot get the job done. And it's because he can't throw the ball outside the numbers. Like Hollywood, who is visibly frustrated on social media, is not seeing, you know, enough volume. He's not seeing enough targets, and he's really your only outside receiver and deep threat that you have. He's not really getting the looks. And it's, you know, maybe it's because they don't have very good receivers on the outside. I don't know. But it just doesn't seem like, if you can take away the seam throws, and you can kind of load up the box and contain him on the ground, even though he had a decent rushing game. But like, you don't let him destroy you on the ground, and you make him throw it outside the numbers, you can have success against the Ravens offense. And I think more and more teams are starting to figure that out, and that's why you're seeing him struggle this year. I guess Tennessee kind of exposed that in the playoffs last year. So, you know, this team is only going to go as far as he takes them at the end of the day. Like, they're always going to beat the teams that they're better than. You know, in those cases, it's the teams that are as good or better than them can he get the wins. And history has shown that he cannot.
Yeah, history has definitely shown that. And, you know, there are, you know, Coop, I don't come on here and toot my own horn much when I'm right about things. But I have been extremely right about Lamar Jackson since really last season when I picked the Titans to beat them in the playoffs. Like, the man cannot throw downfield or outside the numbers at all. It's incredibly exposing. When you looked at this game, right, if we watched this game and we only watched, you know, we watched every play besides the ones where he threw the ball, you would think that the Ravens kicked the crap out of the Steelers. It was not even really close. Like, they ran for over 250 yards. Like, the defense played a lot better than the Steelers' defense, really, in the first half especially. That game, you know, Lamar throws the pick six on the first drive of the game. If he doesn't do that, it's at least 17-0, maybe more. Like, Steelers' offense wasn't doing much in the first half. And then, you know, something clicked. They spread it out. They were doing the empty sets a lot. And Ben was just carving up that secondary and watching it, right? We kind of were watching it, and you watch Ben, who's just going empty set and throwing it down the field and really doing whatever he wants and pretty much running the offense. And then you watch Lamar Jackson, and you're like, he's never going to be that guy. He's just never going to be that guy. And I think, you know, one of the things that I always talk about, and I talk about it with Lamar Jackson, and I talk about it with Josh Allen, you know, the guy I want in the playoffs is the guy who can make the throw. There are few quarterbacks in the league, starting quarterbacks in the league, that I trust less than Lamar Jackson to make the throw needed, right? And we saw this time and time again. This game, we saw it against the Chiefs. Like, yeah, like, and every team is looking at it, and every team knows this, right? Every team understands that he can't throw that well, and that they're going to beat you running the ball. And a lot of teams can't stop it anyway, right? A lot of teams, like, they just can't stop it. The run, because they're just not good enough. And then what they do is they totally sell out to try to stop it. And then Lamar can pick his spots because it's just so much easier. But when you play really good teams who it isn't just like, they have to totally sell out. And the Steelers were not doing that. The Steelers were not totally selling out. And that's why they gave up 250 yards rushing, because I think they looked at it and said, yeah, like we'll give up 250 yards rushing. Like that's fine. Lamar Jackson, at some point, you're going to have to beat us with your arm. Like at some point, especially if Ben is moving down the field like he did in the second half. I think they kind of knew that and said, go ahead, run it. Like even we saw the drive that ended up with the 4th and 4 that, Lamar Jackson does a QB draw, and like everyone in the world knows that he's going to do a QB draw, right? I don't think anyone was watching it is like, oh yeah, he's going to try to throw for this. Like, no, like he's going to try to run for it. The Ravens knew that that's what they want him to do because the man can't throw. But even the drive leading up to that, they ran every single play until those 3 downs before they got to 4th down. Every single play. They did not try to throw it once. And we're talking about 4 minutes left in the game, and you're losing, and you refuse to throw it even once. And, albeit they're running for 6 yards a pop, but at some point, you have to be able to trust your guy a little bit to throw the ball. The Ravens don't do that. They understand his limitations. Or so we thought. Looking at this season, it looks like they wanted to try to dial it up this year. They wanted to say, okay, let's, Lamar Jackson, everybody knows he's really good at running the ball. We think he's a really good passer too. Let's try to give him more opportunities in the passing game. And we're seeing with his play this year and with the dip in his numbers, he's not that guy. I'm not saying he's not a serviceable quarterback. Of course he is. He's going to win a lot of games because of what I mentioned with the running, and then it becomes easier to pick your spots. Like, if he's your starting quarterback, you're pretty much booked for 11 or 12 wins a year.
Yeah.
Depending on the offensive line you have and the other running backs you have. Right. But, like, in these big games against the best teams, he's just not a guy I want. He's not a top 10. He's not a top 15. He's not even really a top 20 guy I want in these type of games. So that's, now talk about the Steelers. Big Ben, who did not play good the week before, even though they won. He, was carving them up in the second half. In the fourth quarter, he was carving them up. And I think he deserves a lot of respect. So that'd be my take on that game.
Yeah, I thought Ben played really well. I think he's been like really efficient this year. Yeah. If anything, like other than the Tennessee game, he only has 4 picks on the year, and 3 of them were in that game, in that second half. So like besides that, he's basically just kind of gotten the ball to his playmakers and let them do their thing. Yep. And I don't want to say he's game managing, but to an extent he is.
He's the best game manager in the league, though.
Yeah, right. To that, it's kind of like he's the best game manager in the league, and he's also able to make the throw. Like Ben can still do that, even though he's getting up there in age, not quite as mobile as he used to be, but he absolutely can still beat you from the pocket, and he did it on Sunday. So. Yep. Steelers sitting at 7-0, and my latest power rankings came out yesterday morning, so you can go check those out. I did have them at number 1 after their win. They narrowly edged the Chiefs. I came up with a new algorithm though for determining. I
saw that. I like that.
I'm not going to give away the secret sauce, but it's a good measure of how truly elite teams are. Now it doesn't completely dismiss the eye test, but it gives a little bit better a measure. So make sure you guys check that out on allinnetwork.net to see where your team came in the rankings. My team did not do so great.
I liked the new algorithm. I checked it out on allinnetwork.net. It's kind of surprising. Some of the teams you wouldn't, but I think it is a more true measure. And even looking at how your rankings changed from the previous week where you weren't using that method, a lot of the rankings like, oh, that makes a little bit more sense. So, check that out for sure, allinnetwork.net. Let's talk about your team then. They won on Sunday night against the rival Cowboys and the great Ben DiNucci. So let me ask you this two-part question. Are they a lock for the NFC East at this point? And how are you feeling about your boy Carson Wentz? He's getting a lot of shit in the media.
Yeah, so this question is twofold. I think the answer to the first one is they're a lock, but you can pick it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
They're a lock, but you can pick it. Because I do think Washington is almost not as bad as they need to be for us to be a full-on a full on lock. So like I think Washington could still win the division.
Yeah.
If Kyle Allen were to play better or something like that. I don't know. I think their defense is at least good enough. But I think we might win it by default. And it kind of goes hand in hand with how badly Carson Wentz is playing. And he's probably the most frustrating player to watch in football. Like even as a neutral fan, and you watch Carson Wentz and you're just like, for like the first like 2.5 quarters of most games, you're like, what in the world is this guy doing? Why is he holding the ball so long?
Yeah.
And then in some games, in the games that we've won, he's come up big down the stretch. That wasn't the case on Sunday night. The defense actually kind of bailed him out with that. I think it was a fumble 6, that we had that kind of sealed it for us.
Made the cover.
So, but he at no point in this game did he kind of like pick it up and you're like, finally, like Carson Wentz looks good. He had like one drive where you're like, all right, well, thank you for not playing like a scrub. And the regression of Carson Wentz has just, it's been frustrating to watch.
Yeah.
If we're being honest, as an Eagles fan, and usually we can kind of like point to certain things. Like even last year, I thought he got a little more disrespect than he probably should have because given the tools that he had, like Greg Ward was his best receiver. But like this year, I don't think there's really any excuses. Granted, the offensive line is in disarray, but like so is everyone else's. So it's like I don't know that I can really write that off for him. I see other quarterbacks still getting it done with lesser offensive lines than what we have, even with the injuries. Everyone has injuries at receivers, and the fact that we have someone like Travis Fulgham playing as well as he is, like, I don't think that's a pass for you. You got Dallas Goedert back. You had Zach Ertz for most of the year, and even though you haven't been able to get him the ball. So in this year, I can't figure it out, and I don't know if it's the play calling. I don't know if it's the offensive line, like I said, or what it is, but he's become a turnover machine, which he typically hasn't been. But he certainly holds the ball too long.
Yeah.
And that is actually what's leading to the turnovers, the fumbles and the picks are a result of him holding on to the ball too long. And I think it might be time to actually explore Jalen Hurts.
Uh-oh.
And granted, like it's crazy to say that while we're leading the division. But my fear is if we don't make the change soon, we allow Washington to gain ground on us, and then we might lose the division that's in our hands by default.
That's crazy.
And the reason I'm also calling for Hurts or not calling for Hurts. I don't know if I'm quite there yet. I thought at one point in the Cowboys game they should have thought about it. But the main reason is because you would simplify the playbook, I would assume, right? For someone like Jalen Hurts coming in, a rookie, shorter passes, quicker pass plays that get the ball out of his hands, maybe more screens to your running backs, things that get the ball out quicker. And if the offensive line is the issue, I want the most mobile person back there. That's Jalen Hurts. Like Jalen Hurts can get out on the run and make plays with his legs better than Carson Wentz, who's ran the ball in extended plays well, but he does it almost too much. Yeah. So, but if someone should be running for their life back there, it should be Jalen Hurts. Now, I don't know that Doug Peterson is ever going to do that. So maybe I'm grasping at straws here, and especially since he's $100 million quarterback, which every quarterback that's a starter right now is practically $100 million. But I don't know that you can really do that given how much you're paying him. You don't often see that. But it's just at what point do we kind of say Carson might be holding us back from how good we actually can be?
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't see how you can bench him right now, though, because you are in first place, because you're paying all this money. It's like it's almost impossible. But if they did, if Doug Peterson said, "I'm benching Carson Wentz this week," I don't know how many people would really be like, "Well,
that makes no sense."
Decision. Right, it makes no sense. Like it definitely makes some sense to think about it, right? Like just watching him play, like. And the thing, like holding on to the ball, like the one where he rolled out left and he's just holding it and holding it and holding it. And There was they showed the camera from behind him. There was nobody downfield in front of him. Like just throw it out of bounds, dude. And he didn't. And he took the hit and he got sacked and fumbled. Right. Yeah, like the Eagles are bad. I do think they're gonna win the division. And as much as you're right about Washington, we just don't know about Washington really. I think the defense looks actually pretty good. The quarterback play is the question mark, like with the Kyle Allen thing. There was a time last year in Carolina where Kyle Allen was, I think, 4-0. I don't think he's that good, but if he's game manager and isn't turning the ball over like Carson Wentz, they've already beaten the Eagles once this year. Like, it's certainly not out of the realm of possibility that they could beat the Eagles again and win this division. The Eagles are definitely the favorite. I would say that I would keep Wentz in there, though. You just, and the thing is, too, like, you're in first place right now. If you put in Jalen Hurts, like, you could potentially it could be bad, right? Like, it could be good. It could be better than Wentz, but it could be really bad. He was a second-round pick. Like, it's not like this is a top 5 guy or this is a sure thing backup or even an experienced backup. Like, this is a second-round rookie. So
right.
I don't know that it would be a definite he's going to come in and make them better. He might, though. Maybe it's worth the risk because you look at it and you say, whoa, he put him in and we lose a game. Well, the rest of our division is going to lose a ton of games anyway. So if we end up 6-8-1 or 6-9-1 instead of 7-8-1, we probably win the division anyway, which is insane that's even words coming out of my mouth with that record. But if you're looking at it like that, you're like, yeah, we can probably afford to lose a game because of the teams chasing us. Let's throw them in and see if it's any better. So maybe it's worth a shot. Maybe you're right. I probably would hang on to Wentz for right now, though.
Yeah, plus, like, it would be difficult to go back to Wentz if you bench him. So, like,
sure,
if you do, and also to even, like, entertain the possibility of him being your starter next year would be hard after you bench him. So you also have to be prepared to, like, move on from him permanently. Especially if Hurts, actually plays well and holds on to the job.
Yep.
I don't know how many people are taking that contract, so that's also another thing that you have to factor in.
It's almost impossible, right?
Right, especially after you bench him. So it's just an awful situation to be in.
How about it? Philly sports, awful situations.
Yeah,
but you got Daryl Morey though, so maybe he'll fix things. Maybe.
Oh man, we don't have enough time for that.
So let's transition to a Week 9 preview. Let's start with the Thursday night game. Tonight we have Packers-Niners. Nick Mullins starting at quarterback for the Niners. Do they have a chance?
Weirdly they do. Weirdly they do. Yeah. They do. And now granted, they have a ton of injuries on top of the COVID cases that they've had this week, which I want us to touch on that, why this game is still being played tonight. But regardless of all the people who are sitting out, not only because of positive tests, but also close contact.
So you don't think it should be being played?
Well, I'm just like, of all the games that you rescheduled this year, is this not the one? Like,
right, and it's on Thursday. Like, why can't, even if it's on Sunday, like, just make it a normal game. Like,
right, and I'm just like, I don't think anyone's going to be mad about.
I think at this point, though, like, how many, like, we saw this week, like, a handful of teams have COVID statements or some kind of, but, like, honestly, I feel like at the NFL at this point, it's like, well, fuck it.
Like, no, that's exactly what they're doing. Like, I get a notification on my phone every day that a player tested positive. This team closed their facility for today. They put other players on the
still played. The Raiders' entire offensive line went home and they still played.
Yeah, they're just like, if you test positive every day up until Sunday, you can play. And it's just like,
that's all right.
Well, yeah, it's just like
Joe Biden, people.
Right. It's just like, listen, we're not going to do anything about it, but we'll be transparent about how many people are sick.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see how that's playing out. Very conservative, the way that's being handled. But yeah, so back to the game.
Yeah.
Yes, they do have a chance tonight because regardless of who's playing, their offense functions like almost the exact same way. Like they play through the running backs and they seem to have endless amounts of good running backs. Like the undrafted free agent JaMychal Hasty is also good. And it's really mostly the scheme, I think, at this point. Like you could almost throw any running back there and they would average 4 to 5 yards a carry and get in the end zone. and because they also have a good offensive line, which has not been decimated by injuries until Trent Williams did just recently get hurt. But other than that, it's stayed mostly intact. So that's been a plus for them. And the Packers defense is really bad against the run. Dalvin Cook just completely lit them up last Sunday, and it's their biggest flaw. And with Aaron Jones' status in doubt on the other end, and Jamal Williams being completely out because of being a close contact for someone who tested positive, they're going deep into their running back bag, and I don't think they quite have the depth that the Niners do.
Yeah.
So to me, that matters. And also, they're heavily reliant in their passing game on Devontae Adams. Like they really don't have other people other than Tunyon occasionally will step up and be a playmaker for them. But they're heavily reliant on Devontae Adams, especially when they don't have Aaron Jones and they don't even have Jamal Williams. I'm interested to see how that plays out. I am still going to pick the Packers. I'm going to take the Packers in this game, but I wouldn't be surprised one bit if this Niners team was able to pull off an upset tonight.
I probably would be surprised, and here's why. I agree with everything you just said, and I agree with our guy Sean that Green Bay's defense is Swiss cheese. Very, very funny from our friend Sean. So here's the thing about the Packers, and here's the thing specifically about Aaron Rodgers. Like, he's got like an attitude problem in a good way, where he looks at a game and he's like, and this is what all the best players ever in any sport do. Like, they internalized motivations, right?
Yep.
LeBron internalizes motivation. Jordan would pretend things happen. He pretended that Jerry Sloan or was George Karl didn't say hi to him at dinner and made up a story in his own head so that he had motivation. Well, the great players, like, they internalize things that happened. In this case, the Niners kicked the crap out of the Packers in the playoffs. Embarrassed them, really. Like, made us feel like the Packers shouldn't even be there last year.
Yeah.
And I think Aaron Rodgers internalizes that. And I think, when you have him and you're like, these people, they're disrespecting you for whatever reason. He has a way of flipping a switch. He also has a way of flipping a switch after a loss. We've seen that time and time again, including this season. So I think the Packers are probably going to win tonight, and they might win pretty handily because of the Aaron Rodgers factor of, you guys disrespected me. Let me show you who I am. He likes to do that kind of a thing. But I agree with what you're saying. Like, if those things weren't there and we're looking at it, the Packers, I'm not looking at the Packers anymore as one of the best teams in the NFL. I'm not looking at them as a Super Bowl contender anymore because they have floppability, right? They have big floppability, right? They're liable to flop in any game. They could lose to anybody because we just don't know who's going to show up and when. But in a situation like this where I'm pretty sure Rodgers is going to show up because of the things I mentioned, I would take them to win by a touchdown at least.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Next one is Ravens Colts. Excuse me. Ravens coming off the loss, like we talked about, at the Colts, who have looked pretty good past couple weeks. They're sneakily here. The Colts are 6-2. So Ravens at Colts. Who do you like?
I'm going to take the Ravens here, although I think this is going to be a close one. I think the Colts defense is very good, and I think that could pose problems for this Ravens offense this week. But vice versa, the Ravens defense is very good, and I don't at all trust Philip Rivers to beat that defense. So I think it's quite low scoring, not like super low scoring, but I think the Ravens offense will be good enough in this one to get them the win. I'm going to take the Ravens in this one. I'll say 27-21.
Okay. I think I agree with what you're saying there. And if you're asking me, before there's probably, few quarterbacks I'd trust less than Lamar Jackson. Philip Rivers might be one of them because he's got serious noodle arm action going on with him where he can't really throw the ball. But I think that Colts defense is like serious. And I think Frank Reich is a really good coach. And I think you might be thinking as an Eagles fan that maybe some of that Super Bowl magic had more to do with him than Doug Peterson.
I miss Frank Reich so much.
I'm sure you do. I think I'm going to take the Colts here. I think it will be close and relatively low scoring. I'll go 24-21. Okay, so then next one we'll talk about is Seahawks at Bills. Bills have not looked good really the last 4 weeks. Josh Allen has not looked good really the last 4 weeks. And they got Russell Wilson coming to town. What do you think?
I think they take an L this week. Like you say, Josh Allen has been bad, especially compared to how well he was playing early in the season.
Yeah.
And I think this is kind of, especially you, but this is kind of what we expected. That there would be regression after him lighting up the Jets and the Dolphins early on in the season, and putting up ridiculous numbers against those teams. And he didn't even light the Jets up again the second time. Like he was bad.
Yeah.
So we're back to bad Josh Allen now, and
all is right with the world.
Yeah, and they don't even really have a running game, which is surprising, given that was previously a strength of theirs and something that they kind of played off. And I think that might be what's hurting them, is that they can't set up their play action as well because they're not running the ball as well. Devin Singletary has been a disappointment. Zach Moss has been in and out, and even when he's played, he hasn't been great. So maybe it's the offensive line, but they seem to struggle to move the football. And even in a game where you're like, given that the Seahawks secondary is so bad, you're like, this is the matchup, one of the matchups to get it right. But like you would have said the same thing about the Jets last a couple of weeks ago.
Even the Patriots, like Gilmore did not play. Like the Patriots are missing a ton of dudes on defense.
Exactly. So it's just like those were 2 games really in the last 2 weeks where you're kind of like, all right, well, here's their chance to get back on track, and it just didn't happen.
Yeah.
So given that your defense has regressed from last year, going against the MVP frontrunner who's playing out of his mind, it does not bode well for the Bills. I think this one actually could get pretty ugly.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to take the Seahawks 34, Bills 17.
Wow. Yeah, I think I agree with everything you're saying. And the Bills' defense has actually not been that spectacular this year, like not like we expected anyway.
Right.
And the Josh Allen thing is real. Like the last 4 weeks have been bad. We should have predicted that. Some of us did. Like he can't. The man can't throw. Like what do we expect from guys? Like you can only do the running around thing for so many weeks because defensive coordinators in the NFL are very good, especially at scheming to stop running quarterbacks. Not so good at stopping passing quarterbacks because if you can make the throws, that's hard to stop. But I think I'd go with the Seahawks too. Now, typically I would look at this matchup and say, well, Seahawks traveling to Buffalo, like, if it's cold weather, it'll be close. Like I could see this game kind of either going either way. I could even see a Bills win just because of that factor. But I think it's going to be pretty nice in Buffalo this weekend. I'm hearing low 70s, even maybe high 60s in sunny in Buffalo on Sunday. So I think Russell Wilson and that offense will be fine. I think the Seahawks win by quite a bit as well. I'd go 28-19.
Gotcha. Sean, if you're listening, give us a update on the weather out there in Buffalo this weekend.
Yeah, let us know, man. Let us know. So the last game we'll talk about extensively is the Sunday night game, Saints versus Bucks. This is a big game. These teams fighting for first place in the NFC South. Saints have not looked really good recently, but they keep on winning. So I guess that matters for something. Bucks did not look good Monday night either. They won the game, so that matters for something. Where do we see this one going Sunday night?
So the battle of the 2 oldest quarterbacks ever is actually going to be pretty interesting. Battle for the top of the NFC South race. Bucks have they didn't look good Monday night, but before that they had seemed to be hitting a stride. We will get our first taste of Antonio Brown in this offense.
How about that?
Arians isn't quite sure, how much he's going to play. So, we'll see how that works out. But I'm going to take the Bucks here. I think they have the stronger of the 2 defenses. And granted, Michael Thomas is back.
Yep.
But one of the young corners that they have did a very good job on Michael Thomas in week 1 which is the last time he was fully healthy. We don't really know how healthy he is coming into this one. He's this will be his first game back since then. Again, and in a tough matchup. So, and again, my concerns about Drew Brees are all still there.
Yeah.
As far as his ability to push the ball down the field. And against a tough defense like this, where they're a little bit predictable because they rely so heavily on Kamara in both the run and pass game. I think they're good enough to get it done. I think the Bucs offense is also good enough to get it done. So I'm going to take the Bucs here. I'm going to go 31-27 Bucs.
Okay, so it sounds like it's going to be a good game. You mentioned the oldest quarterbacks ever. Can I just say, like, CBS, Fox, NBC, ESPN, stop telling us that they keep breaking their own touchdown records. We don't care. They break it every week against each other. It's like, oh, Drew Brees plays at 1 o'clock. Oh, he broke the touchdown record. Tom Brady plays at 4 o'clock. Oh, he broke the I get an ESPN alert. Breaking news. Tom Brady breaks. No shit. Of course he broke the touchdown record. They break it every game. Like, they're just going back and forth. Like, let's just wait till it's over, and then we'll do it that way. So,
yeah,
that's my first beef. I just wanted to say, I just need to get it off my chest. Okay.
100%.
I think the Bucs win this game. I think, as far as both of them looking bad, Brady and Brees. Brady's looked actually a lot better than Brees, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think that the Bucs defense is really good, really good. And you talk about the Saints, and like they have not looked that good this year, even in games they've won. And I think like they have Drew Brees and they have Alvin Kamara and they have Sean Payton, so like they're going to win close games, which is what they've done so far. But on the road at Tampa Bay with that Bucs defense, I think the Bucs win. And I think they show that they are right now the better team. So I will go 31-23. I'll take Tampa. So. All right, let's do kind of rapid fire NFL picks for all the games we didn't talk about. We're going to pick them straight up. I'm going to throw in my pick against the spread. I'm just going to throw it in with the pick. And if I do really well, we'll talk about it next week. If I do bad, we won't bring it up. If I do bad, we won't bring it up, okay? So let's do Steelers at Cowboys.
No, I'm kidding. Steelers.
Yeah, right. So I'm going to do – I think Steelers are winning. Now, the Steelers are giving 14 to the Cowboys, which is a lot. We don't even know who's playing quarterback for the Cowboys, but as a Steelers fan, I will tell you that is the type of game that is always too close. So I think the Cowboys actually, with the points, I take them. Broncos are at the Falcons. The Falcons are giving them 4.
I'm going to take the Broncos in this one. I think they need to stay alive in the playoff hunt.
I think I'm going to take the Broncos too, which would mean I take the Broncos plus 4. I like Drew Lock a little bit, and I actually like their team a lot more than the Falcons. So,
yeah.
Bears are at the Titans. That's a big matchup, I guess, right? 2 5-win teams.
It is. I'm going to take the Titans here. I trust Tannehill more than I trust Nick Foles. But
right? Are we going to see Trubisky soon?
Probably not. Maybe that ship has sailed, but.
Yeah.
I didn't think he was playing that bad when he got benched, but
I didn't think he was playing that bad either. Nick Foles is playing pretty bad.
Yeah.
I think I'll take, but the Titans, there's something wrong with the Titans.
There is.
They got killed by the Bengals, but I think maybe this is a get back. This is a get back game. And if we're talking about their big issue being the secondary, I don't think Nick Foles is going to carve them up. So I'll go Titans. I'll take the Bears plus 6.5 though. Okay. Panthers are at the Chiefs. Chiefs. So they're giving 11. I think that's too many, though. I'll take Panthers plus the points. Lions are at the Vikings.
I'm going to take the Vikings here.
Yeah.
I think their offense is a little bit back on track. Like, just, playing through Dalvin Cook and Kirk Cousins is not ruining it. So I'm going to take the Vikings here. I think they stay on a roll.
I'm going to take the Vikings, too. I think they do get a little bit hot. And I don't think that the Vikings are actually as bad as what we saw in the first 6 weeks. So if their record finishes more like 8-8, I think that makes a lot more sense than 4-12 or 5-11. So they might, pull off a couple wins here to get closer to that. So that game's a pick 'em. So I'll take the Vikings. Giants are at the Washington football team.
I'm going to take Washington football team.
I'm going to take Washington football team as well. They're giving 2.5. I'll take them giving the points. Texans are at the Jags.
Give me the Texans.
Taking the Texans as well. I think the Jags are starting either Mike Glennon or somebody else, right? Like, it's not good.
I think it was some 6th round rookie that they had this year is who getting the start.
So I'll take the Texans at -7. I'll give all those points. Raiders are at the Chargers.
I'm going to take the Raiders in this one. The Chargers seem to find any way to lose games.
Absolutely.
Even as good as Justin Herbert is.
Yeah, they're going to lose. They're going to find a way to lose. I don't care if they're winning in the first, second half, or wherever. They're going to lose. I'll take the Raiders. That game's a pick 'em. Dolphins at Cardinals. Sneakily, a really big game for both teams.
Yeah, Dolphins shot up my power rankings this week.
Yeah.
But I am going to take the Cardinals. I need to see a little more from Tua. The defense kind of limited what he had to do. I didn't think he was bad, but he didn't have to do much for them to beat the Rams. I want to see what Tua is actually made of. So I'm going to take the Cardinals in this one.
I'm going to take the Cardinals too. Dolphins won last week. It was a big win for Tua, but they had 3 defensive or special teams touchdowns.
Yeah.
Tough to repeat that. So I'll take the Cardinals, and I'll lay the 4.5 with that. And then the Monday night game is Patriots at Jets. What a great Monday night game that is.
That is going to be a snooze fest. However, the Jets, I think, are trying to go 0-16. So I think
they probably are.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think I'll take the Patriots to win. Now, I will say this. The Jets are getting 7. I don't think the Patriots offense can blow anybody out.
No.
So I think I'd take the Jets +7 there.
Yeah, I would certainly take the spread there. I think I'm going to do that on MyBookieAG.
And as a great transition there, Mr. Eli, the All In podcast is presented by MyBookie.ag. Make sure you head over MyBookie.ag to place your bets. When you deposit, use the promo code ALLINPOD, and you will get a 100% bonus. And they'll know that we sent you. So make sure you do that. MyBookie.ag. Place your bets. It's a lot of fun. You can, pick along with the picks I had, and hopefully I make you money. Or you can pick against all the picks I had, and you'll be a lot more likely to make money. So anything else, Coop?
Yes, one more thing. We have an app now.
We do.
We did talk about this on the last episode, but we have an app now available on the Apple Store and Google Play Store. It's the best way to keep up with everything that's going on at the All In Network. You can follow our social media feed. You can get quick, easy access to our website. That's actually what I use now to get to our website on my phone quickly. And you can also listen to our podcast through there. The audio is available there. The rest of the podcast on the All In Network will be coming soon, so stay tuned. Should actually have an app update coming in the next few weeks to kind of clean it up a little bit, so stay tuned. But make sure you download that on your smartphone or your tablet.
Awesome. So make sure you download that app. Make sure you are subscribing to this YouTube channel, turning on the notification button so you know exactly when we are going live from now on. Last thing, forgot to mention. Coop, we're playing each other in both of our fantasy leagues.
Yes, we are. Yeah,
we are.
We should have a little wager.
Are we thinking a little wager? Well, I would say we'd do the same as last time, but I don't know if you noticed. I am off of Twitter.
I did notice. Yes,
I'm off of Twitter. I've been off of. I've been 3 weeks Twitter clean. Almost really messed up those words. But I'm 3 weeks Twitter clean. So we can't do that bet, but we'll think of something here, and we'll at least share with our listeners who won both of our matchups.
Yeah, for sure.
So, all right, guys, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Head over to Apple or Spotify and download the episode as well. Thanks for hanging out with us. This was the All In Podcast.
See you guys on Monday.